Welcome to a new episode of Unconventional Lifestyle series, where I share stories from people who inspire me with their unconventional lifestyle and projects. In this video, I talk with Sanna, a nomad from United States who has been freely wandering the world for 20 years and has recently found her home in Bulgaria. She has fully embraced a life of freedom outside the system, sustaining herself by working on different properties, growing herbs, bartering and exchanging goods. Her free spirit and joyful attitude towards life escaped the American rat race to find peace in the land where things move at a much slower pace. This video is honoring her furry friend, which was a big part of Sanna's journey that landed her in Bulgaria. In this interview, she shares what it really means to live a free life, why she chose to stay in Bulgaria, and how she's thriving despite having no job and not owning any properties. I hope her story inspires you to find your own authentic path. Who is Sanna?
I would say mostly I'm a free spirit. I would say I'm very unpredictable. And what I like to call myself a sacred crazy. So I really think that being a character in life is worth a lot. And I try to inspire others to be free as well. So I say I'm also an inspiration, or I try to be. I'm a pretty wild person as well. I really like to be in nature and without a plan, without my phone. And I like to move around as well. I'm also a nomad, or I've been known to be. So this is the first time I've been somewhere for more than a year in 15 years. So it's a big change, but I'm enjoying it. And I would say, yeah, I'm a musician and I love making music with others. I love sharing and connecting, and most of all, being moved.
How would you describe your lifestyle?
Free life. I've been saying that for, I'd say going on 16 years. I just do whatever I want, whenever I want, and try to help others in the meantime.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived to this place?
Well, I have to give some credit. I was living in Budapest in, I think it was 2009, and I was working kind of a regular job. I was already abroad, but I wasn't free yet. I guess I was always free in my heart, but I just didn't know what that meant. And I was at the park one day, and this tall, handsome fellow named Zoltan came up and asked me if I wanted to throw the ultimate frisbee, because I had a frisbee. So he came up and he wanted to throw with me. And he introduced me to this concept of free life. He said those words in English, and he told me that he had been a lawyer and he had had a really serious life, and one day he just gave it all up and decided he wanted to do whatever he wanted from now on. And I said, I'm going to do that. So it was really Zoltan. And then after that, magical man. After that, I just kept making decisions about my life based on freedom. So that was always the first priority and freedom often means not a lot of responsibility. So that took some getting used to, and that, I think more it took getting used to for people that knew me to understand that I didn't want responsibility because I wanted to be free and flexible. And then I just kept doing it because over the years, I was always free also to be there for the people I loved. So I never had this schedule like other people did. So if someone was in a jam or needed help with something, I could just say, oh, okay, I'll come for as long as you want or as long as I can. So it was really, I started to see that it was really beneficial for me and my community.
So would you say that you're living outside the system?
Yeah, I'd say I'm living in my own system that I created. Yeah. And sometimes that means not following the rules of society. It's taken a while to not have any fear while doing that. But yeah, I pretty much make my own rules.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that looks like in practice?
First of all, no planning more than 2 weeks in advance. That's very important. No planning. that allows you to be free and flexible and, I guess, resilient in whatever situation you're in. So no planning. And I always take an opportunity that feels good for me. And I never take an opportunity that doesn't feel good for me, even if that means, even if it has the illusion of money or a lot more opportunities afterwards. If I don't feel good, then I don't do it. So it's also about keeping my own freedom with myself and not going with what somebody needs from me or what I think I'm gonna need. So I think a lot of it is also just being in the moment, not being too much in the future, not being in the past or trying not to be. Yeah, I think it's every little decision, every part of my life is deciding to keep my freedom, and sometimes that's hard.
How does your life look different from like a normal life?
I was talking about no responsibility earlier in one of your earlier questions, but I have to say that over time I've realized that free life is actually a lot more personal responsibility because no one tells me what I have to do. So a lot of it is really pondering on what I actually want to do. So that includes how I make money. That includes how I spend my free time, where I spend my free time, and with who. So sometimes I am doing this job and sometimes I'm doing that job. So I'd say I have like maybe 20 jobs. And none of them are really all the time. So I do a little bit of everything. And then also it allows me to not get kind of stuck in one thing. So that's also a part of freedom is diversity. I also do everything for myself and I make everything myself. And I do a lot of bartering and trading for things that I really need. So for instance, like trading with my neighbors, I make bread. So I'll trade loaves of bread for cheese or eggs, or sometimes I will give a massage for something, or trade the use of my car for something, or trade a pair of pants or some kind of service. So trading is a really important part. Being open also to other forms of payment because we're so used to exchanging money that sometimes I get creative and I have to receive something different than what I expected or give something different than what I was expected. The economy has to be diverse. Otherwise, it's too much pressure and too much responsibility. So that's something. And yeah, making everything yourself from scratch. And also part of free life is not relying on anyone else basically for anything. And that includes medical care. So I've also learned over the last decade how to prevent and treat all of my own illnesses and wounds with herbs. So that's also really helpful for being self-reliant and self-sustaining and free because I don't have to worry about relying on someone else if something goes wrong.
How do you actually sustain yourself?
Well, I work the property for my staying at the property, and I've been doing that for a while. So what I give to a property in terms of doing the landscaping, staging it, keeping the energetics going, meditating here every day is my rent. So I don't have to think about rent. Yeah, basically, I don't ever deny someone who wants to pay me to do something that I like to do. So, like I said, I have an herbal business. I make cosmetics and tinctures and creams out of herbal products, which is a lot of work, but not that much cost. I also make clothing out of linen. So that's also a lot of work and not much cost. So it's more, my life is more work than cost. So I think a lot of people think that life costs you so much money, but that's because they buy everything. If you don't buy anything, your life doesn't cost very much money. So I try to not buy anything and I try to keep my costs as low as possible. And I always take opportunities for actual money if it's something that I like to do.
What can you share with us about your nomad lifestyle?
First, I was a nomad because it was the only choice. I have to say that when I first left the US, it was because I really wanted to not be in that environment. Once I saw another environment than the USA, I decided that that wasn't for me. So at first it was just moving around and, traveling with a backpack and a guitar. And that was maybe, like 13, 14 years. I did a lot of volunteering, a lot of volunteering. So I would stay somewhere a month or more and volunteer. And so I wouldn't spend any money and I would just have to have my travel, my buses and my planes. And that's actually not that much. And then I really learned to trust the world through that. So then nomadic life became a lot easier, actually. And I realized that no matter where I go, I can find home. Or I could feel at home, So then when the pandemic came, it changed things because I got a little bit scared that I wouldn't be able to be a nomad anymore. And so I kind of changed my life. I got a car so then I could easily drive wherever I wanted, but that did change things. And having the car is it makes me more free in one way because I can go wherever I want quickly, but in some ways it also limits me. So that was the first decision I made that didn't seem to be in line with my self-sustaining, no eco footprint life. And it was really hard for me to take on that responsibility of the car. And I have no regrets. I'm so happy that I got the car and now I have this kind of nomadic lifestyle because now I can stay at rural properties and I have everything that I need and I can always go on and off the property. But that's one reason why I don't want to own my own house. Over the years, many people have said to me, like, why don't you get your own place? Or tried to even sometimes push me to buy a property, or oftentimes even saying, I'll give you money to buy a property. But for me, that feels less free because I know what it takes to really properly manage a property. And it's a lot of work and there's not a lot of room for not being there. And I have absolutely no need to own things, which I know seems strange. It's probably part of my sacred crazy. Yeah, through the years, I just don't have this feeling like I want to own anything or own a property because I just think it would tie me down. And as I said, and I've been saying this whole time, I usually make decisions that help me be more free, more flexible. And so for me, thinking of purchasing a house just makes me think, oh, trap or cage. So I would prefer to just caretake properties and build them up and then kind of move on. But every property that I've worked on, I can always go back there pretty much for the rest of my life. And I really want to say too that part of free life and nomad life is building strong, genuine, long-term relationships. There are properties all over Europe and South America and US that I can go to anytime I want and stay as long as I want. And that to me is really safe and secure. I mean, even though I don't own those properties, I'm welcome there whenever I want. And I feel good there and I can send other people there, other nomads or volunteers or residents that come here. I can send them to other properties in this network. So I'm really happy with my decision to not buy a property so far.
Why Bulgaria specifically?
I often tell people Bulgaria is one of the greatest countries on earth because it's all forests and no people. I love people, but I also really love silence and I love space. So it's really underpopulated place and more populated by nature than people. So that's one reason why I really love it. They also the Bulgarians have not taken over the entire land with their civilization, like in other countries, like in the West, and of course in the United States and other places. So the whole country is not civilized. So it's really wild. And that's also, you can see that in the nature and all of the herbal medicine. So all of the herbal medicine is really raw and really good quality here and in abundance. So that's one reason I really love Bulgaria. Also, the land is healthy because it hasn't all been civilized. So it's very fertile land, very, very good to grow in and also work with. And also that goes with the people. The people are still connected to the land, which I really like. So a lot of these grandmas and a lot of the women in Bulgaria, and men too, they have a lot of this knowledge still about natural medicine and natural ways of doing things. And the whole society continues to go with the rhythms of nature and all of their old traditions that are built around survival, because that's what life actually is. It's about giving yourself sustenance, like surviving with providing for yourself. That's what life actually is. And so it hasn't gone to this Western way of life is about producing and getting more. It's about being present and being able to nourish yourself and enrich yourself with what you have. So I really love that about the Bulgarians. And they're just a friendly people in a really amazing land that's so rich and full of spirit as well. Compared to the US, Bulgaria is much slower. And this is really hard to explain in words, but 2 years ago, I went home after being in Bulgaria for 2 years because I didn't go home a lot during the pandemic. And I was there for a month. And I remember feeling like I lived 1 year in 1 month in the US. 1 year in Bulgaria was 1 month in the US. That's how fast everything moves there. And here, it's not only the people that move slow, but there's something in the land that is very slow and steady and solid. And it's almost impossible to rush here. And you see that in the people, you see that in the way that the nature is and the animals. Everything is just a lot slower, more calm, and not in a rush.
Can you tell us how success looks like to you?
Success to me is being in joy. I'd say at this point in my life, I'm about 95% of the time in joy. And that's a long way from where I used to be when I first started this journey. But yeah, success, I think for me just feels like I'm in joy. My heart has peace and I have everything that I need.
Can you tell me what freedom means to you?
Freedom is for me doing whatever I want, whenever I want, without harming anyone and without feeling any shame or guilt.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to exit the rat race and the system and just live with more freedom and joy and more connected to nature?
I would say that you can have everything that you want. And if there's ever a feeling that you can't, that's fear. Fear is not real. It's only what you create. So if you don't have the life that you want, then look to where you're afraid and face that fear. Not doing everything that you want is doing yourself a disservice and everyone around you, because we've been trained in society to live our lives for others and for the validation of others. And then we suffer. And when we suffer, other people around us suffer. So if you can really put your own wishes and dreams first, then everyone, including you, is going to benefit from that.
Where do you see your life in the future?
I see a beautiful future full of free people that are in peace in their hearts, working together with nature. And I see myself continuing to be a medicine woman and just gaining more knowledge and sharing more knowledge with women and families, specifically about how to take care of your body, mind, and spirit using nature. I don't know what will happen or where I'll be in the future, but I'm open and I know that I'm going to be full of joy and peace. And I really hope that I get struck by lightning when I die. I do see that. I hope that happens. No, I know that's going to happen.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the world?
I would like to share with the world that my philosophy is less knowing and more feeling. So I suggest everyone to come out of their minds, which is what we were trained to be in, drop into your heart, feel more, and realize that you know nothing.